Hi everyone, this is BritSimon. So I wanted to jump on and just explain something to explain my perspective about the time that we've lost so far this year with regard to KCC processing. This is really to explain to some of the people that perhaps don't understand the impact, that think everything is wonderful, that are now rejoicing because of Tier 4 and think everything is going to be fine. There is a lingering impact, and I just want to be clear about that. It's not that I'm a negative person, far from it, frankly. It's that I'm realistic, and I need to explain to you the realities without you being, sort of kept in the dark. And so that's why I explain things to you. I believe most of you are adult enough to understand that. If you're not, and you prefer to just believe in fairies and unicorns, lovely. Go ahead and do that. But okay, so the metric that I want you to understand is the number of DS260s that should have been processed so far to this point in the year. We're towards the end of November. Around about 6 months ago, almost to the day, I would suspect, KCC switched their resources from processing DV 2022 cases, as they had been from early May, I think May 8th, when the results were announced, till about May 20th, 21st, 22nd, around about that time. So they spent a few weeks processing DV 2022 cases, then they stopped processing, and they didn't reprocess again until probably late September, perhaps early October even. And what they did in the meantime was they focused on DV 2021 cases because, of course, we were suing them at the time. So in May, they wanted to show the Judge Mehta, that they were actually doing something on the DV 2021 cases, and they switched all their resources that they had to that sort of work. So that's what they've been doing. Now, we actually have, because of the DV 2021 lawsuits, we have a declaration from Morgan Miles. Morgan Miles is the director, if you like, the main boss at KCC. And so he was asked just to give us some information on progress of DV 2021 cases. And he did that. And I want to show you that here, actually. I'll show you here. Right. So this is his his declaration made under penalty of perjury. So this is this is truthful information as far as he's concerned. And so what I want to show you here is this, which actually explains to us the capacity that KCC have. So it explains here, in June of 2020, KCC began opening and reviewing application packets for DV 2021 cases. This is DS260s, right? This is what they're talking about here. That's the first step in the review process. There's one case for every selectee or principal applicant, but there may be multiple applicants, blah, blah, blah. Basically, he's saying how many cases they were able to process. And at the end of processing, after they've opened these cases, these DS260s, they would send out the email for document request, right? Now, in June of 2020, they processed 5,000 cases. And that's cases only, main selectees only, it explains here. And so that would have been about 10,000 people. In July, they processed about just over 7,000 cases, right? So June, which was a partial month from this point of view, the results were only announced in early June, I think June 8th, June 6th, around that time. So this is only 3 weeks of processing, hence it's only 5,000. In July, they were able to process 7,000 cases, or about 14,000 people. And so we can see that the pace that they can operate at is around about 7,000 cases a month. And this was during COVID times. Now you'll see that there is a rapid decline of the amount of DS260s that they processed after that point. And as you can see, that decline continued, and they didn't really get back up to speed in terms of processing until, well, not at all in DV 2021. But you can see that they did in January and February, they did almost no work, right? In March, April, and May, they at least got back to some sort of normal sort of numbers. And then June, there would have been less cases being submitted for DS260s in June, July. Most of the cases are going to be submitted before that time. I always tell people to submit your case well before May, so almost a year after you've been selected. But anyway, the point being here that we know they can process about 7,000 cases per month. So if that's true, if 7,000 cases per month is a reasonable expectation, from let's ignore May for a moment. Let's just talk about June, July, August, and September. Those months, they did, I believe, virtually no work on DV 2022. And so if they were processing at 7,000 cases a month, which they weren't, but if they had have been doing that, they could have processed 28,000 cases, or about 50 to 55,000 people, right? They could have done that by September, and they should have done that. That would be the normal way of working. And then in October and thus far in November, they could have processed another 10,000 cases or so. And so the capacity that KCC had to process cases is clear. We've got the numbers for that. We know how much they can process. How many cases have they processed? Well, we don't know the exact numbers, but I think most of you that are in forums or localized forums, you'll know that there have been cases processed up until late May and even some early June ones. But in general, it's nothing like, it's not a high percentage. It's not half of the cases or 75% of the cases that have ever been submitted. It's nothing like that, right? There are people who are still waiting to be processed from most of June, all of July, all of August, all of September, and so on. So what's clear is that the 4-month gap where they did no work was certainly a big damaging aspect to DV 2022. And it's also clear that they haven't accelerated that effort in October and November, okay? Now, we might see them do that based on the removal of the Tier 4 processing priority thing, because, as I explained the other day, I believe, and this is my supposition, I don't know this for sure, but because they are funded by the visa interview fees, the $330, because they're funded by that, they actually, now that they can get more cases processed or we can get more cases interviewed, they have potential to make more money from the revenue of interviews happening, right? And therefore, they should be able to increase the amount of contract staff working at KCC back to normal levels, okay? It would also help if they would return to the office at KCC. I don't believe they've returned to the office yet. And so that's another aspect that they could do to try and make things better, right? So if we could get them to get back to that level, then that would be great, because they could process those cases. But don't underestimate the impact of the lost time that we've already had. That will impact us down the road. It's going to mean that there's going to be some delays. If they got back to the 7,000 a month, if they got back to that, they could fix this problem in, probably 4 or 5 months. They could get us to where we need to be. But time will run out. Okay, they can't delay that processing increase for very much longer before they actually will start to impact the whole year. And so we have to realize that that's the position. Okay, so I wanted to explain that metric. I hope people will understand the meaning of that. We're talking about DS260 processing and document request emails. Obviously, that's not to do with document qualification, which is the document processing piece. But this is the first step in the process, right? We're wildly behind where we should be. We know that. We can feel that. You can tell that by the collected data that's out there. and we can see that in a normal year they should be doing far more cases than they actually have. I mean, there's clearly nothing like 20 or 30,000 cases processed that there should be by now. There's clearly nothing like that, right? That should be obvious to us all. And because if there were that many cases, that we would be hearing about people. Lots of people would be letting us know that they've had their document request, etc. And that's just not the case. Okay, everybody. That's all I wanted to explain today. Just that particular metric, that particular data point. Of course, things will become more clear in January when we have access to the SEAC data and so on. We'll see what the real position is then. But I did just want to make people aware of why I've been concerned and nervous about DV 2022. And give you the information. All right, everybody, give me a thumbs up, like on this video if you like this sort of information. If you don't like my information, you think I'm too negative or whatever, you think I don't really care, but give me a thumbs down anyway. And please subscribe to the channel. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye now.